Hello everyone and welcome. Since we weren't able to last night, we have 4 featured questions that we will be answering at the end of this video. If you would like to have your question answered, please comment it below, and I'll try to answer it on our next episode of our Hylian Gamescast, or on our next news or theory video that should be going up here in 2 or 3 days. Today we have a slightly different video. Ever since season 1 of Stranger Things, I've kept thinking I'm seeing strong similarities between The Legend of Zelda and Stranger Things. The places, characters, events, stories, and almost everything in Stranger Things seems to be somewhat inspired by The Legend of Zelda. I'm sure I'll skip over a lot of things that you've probably noticed. You can just let me know in the comments below, and when I make a follow-up video to this, I'll be sure to credit you in that video for bringing it to my attention. Obviously, most of these are probably just a coincidence, but I still think it's all interesting and fun to point out. I've mentioned this years ago when I first watched season 1, but thought maybe it was just a coincidence. Then seasons 2, 3, and 4 kept bringing even more similarities. I don't know if the Duffer brothers or writers are fans of Zelda, or if they took influence from the games, but I just wanted to make a video detailing some of what I've noticed. Obviously, spoiler alert for the games and Stranger Things. Let's begin with season 1 and make our way to the newest season. Season 1. The Upside Down is an almost identical, darker, more dangerous version of the main town of Stranger Things, Hawkins, but it does have slight differences, even the darker atmosphere we see. It all brings to mind the Dark World, or how Hyrule looks when we see the Twilight Realm slowly taking over. Later in this season, and more so in other seasons, we learn of specific portals in certain areas to travel between the Upside Down and Hawkins, similar to the portals in certain areas of Hyrule to travel to the Twilight Realm, or even Lurel. The series is based in the 80s, when The Legend of Zelda first released, and we can see the creators are fans of pop culture, nerd culture, and gaming in general, as we see arcades, posters, and other things spread all throughout the series. The main enemy in Season 1 is the Demigorgon, which looks very similar to the Twilight emissaries. In interviews around the time of Season 1, the cast leaked that the monsters we see in the Upside Down are people who have been turned into these monsters. Later seasons also tell us basically every living thing in the Upside Down behaves as a hive mind, under the control of the Mind Flayer, which we will get to in just a moment. The Twilight emissaries are also said to be normal people who have been transformed into demons by 𝗧 using Ganondorf's power. The backstory of both are similar. Both are tall, lanky, dark, black creatures with the same backstory, used as minor enemies, created the same way, and the beta designs of the emissaries are even closer to matching with the Demigorgons. The first season ends with Will being rescued from the Upside Down, but not before he was infected. This is just a small thing, but reminds me of how different characters are corrupted by the Twilight Shards, or just 𝗧. This next one is shown through all of the seasons, but Zelda and Stranger Things have young or teenage protagonists who have to go on their own adventures, finding the courage to keep going, learn to use their abilities. Both have a powerful, magical female character that needs to learn how to use their power, or magic, to stop and seal away the bad guys. In Breath of the Wild's case, which we will see there are a lot more similarities with it specifically, both Zelda and Eleven struggle to use their power until their friends or the world is in the most danger. At times, pushing both of their limits, causing them to almost faint, though they continue using their power, even when it means they may also be sealed away, or worse. Season 2. This season adds a few smaller similarities, but doubles down on everything we have mentioned so far. Mostly we see more portals. The new big bad guy, the Mind Flayer, is trying to have the Upside Down take over the normal world, Hawkins, similar to 𝗧 taking over Hyrule with the Twilight Realm. The Mind Flayer is also trying to take over and possess Will directly. You could compare this to Zelda being possessed by Ganondorf, but Season 3 has an even better example. Season 3. The third season has the Mind Flayer correctly possessing Bill, Max's brother. This 100% matches the possessed Zelda similarity mentioned earlier. We get an even better look at the Mind Flayer in this season, a giant, spider-like, dark, grotesque, magical monster with a large, creepy head that looks like it was directly designed after Calamity Ganon's weird spider form. Even this scene matches the camera angle from this part of Breath of the Wild, and both are being fought in a sort of closed-in area. The portals we see popping up everywhere in Hawkins that lead to the Upside Down has what looks identical to the malice from Calamity Ganon growing all around them. Season 4. The 4th season introduces Vecna. My first thought when seeing him was how closely he matches the final form of Majora. Tall, skinny, dark shades of red or purple, the pose they do with the veins coming out of both of them. They both can mind control or possess different people. They both want to take over, or more accurately, kill all of the humans. Both seem to be more powerful in their own worlds. Oddly enough, Season 4 of Stranger Things, where Vecna is introduced, has a strong connection to time and clocks, just as the game Majora's Mask does. The final area where Vecna is confronted has the large grandfather clock as the set piece's main focus. Majora's Mask also has the clock tower as the way to confront Majora in its finale. Not a huge similarity, but the demo bats that are a large focus in certain episodes of Season 4 remind me of either the Shadow Korgoroks or the standard Keese. We find out the Upside Down is where another powerful magic user, was sent and became imprisoned, which transformed him into Vecna. The Twilight Realm and Dark World was also where Ganondorf, a powerful magic user, was sent. The Twilight Realm itself also being where other magic users were sent to be imprisoned. Although it is under different circumstances, just as one transforms into Vecna, Ganondorf can also transform into his beast form, Ganon. Just as Ganondorf or Demise wants to use Zelda's power for themselves, Vecna wants to use Eleven's. Zelda games have a strong focus on music, with songs that have different uses or magic abilities. Stranger Things gives the characters' favorite songs the ability or power to break free from Vecna's curse or possession. Season 5 isn't out yet at this point, but I expect a lot more similarities between the TV series and the video game series. I'll make an updated video when it comes out. I'm sure I've skipped over a few different things. If I have, please comment down below, and I may make a follow-up video. This was just a fun idea that I wanted to do with Season 1, and am finally getting around to it after being asked. But what do you think of the show? Do you think any of these make sense, or is it all just reaching? And what do you think is going to happen in Season 5? Hello everyone, welcome to the end of the video. We will be answering a few questions that you all left on our last video and on our Zelda mailbag in our Discord for our podcast, the Hylian Gamescast. Sadly, we weren't able to have our Hylian Gamescast podcast last night. We will do our best to have it next Thursday, with all of the issues it had last week fixed. I also have a special guest planned, so look forward to that. Since we weren't able to last night, I thought I would answer a few of your questions at the end of this video. But first, I really need to say thank you, honestly beyond thank you, to the most generous Patreon supporter that I have, Shadow to Us. Thank you so much for everything. And thank you to everyone else on here as well. Justin Clark, Monica Spath, SOBERX, 𝗵𝗲 Joseph Stewart, Natsu, Wrecker1, Rusty Caulfield, Tremel Shefford, Ashton Wren, Blargnar, Chad Costin, David Guthman, Disappointment, Gus Calvo, Gene Pinna, Candy, Lovable Christie, Mr. Monocled Metroid, only donated to hear Jesse speak my name, and ZAIN. Thank you all so much. Sadly, I've still been having some internet issues, but thanks to all of you on Patreon, hopefully everything will be fixed soon. Now, our first question comes from DragonChi, Patreon supporter. Mailbag, are we going to get a proper direct before September? To make this quick, because we have about 4 questions on here, usually answer 1 or 2 at the end of the video. Yes, I do. I think we will get an actual direct before September. Candy says, good evening, how are you all doing? Amazing this morning, thank you. I know it's been a while, but here's something that I would like to know a couple of things actually. I wonder what is Princess Midna's story like? Why and how did she become Princess of Twilight? And the other one is, who is Linkle's grandmother? And will they develop her story? For Midna, I imagine that she is princess for the same reason Zelda or Hilda is princess. They are just the royal bloodline. Although, in the same way that Hylia is the goddess of Hyrule, I do wonder if the Twilight Realm has its own goddess, and if the same reincarnation bloodline thing goes through Midna as well. And then I'll just look at Zant trying to take over the throne, the same as you would look at Ganondorf trying to take over the throne of Hyrule. They just kind of mirror each other. As for Linkle, sadly I don't think so. If they ever decide to do a Hyrule Warriors 2, obviously Age of Calamity was the second Hyrule Warriors, but if they ever decide to do a real Hyrule Warriors 2, maybe they can explore that a little bit. The development team did say that was one of their favorite characters. They loved they were able to add her in, and even 𝗷𝗵𝗲 himself said that he liked the character. So who knows? But sadly, I don't think it's very likely. Although I do think another Hyrule Warriors game is likely, especially after the success of Age of Calamity. Hyrule Warrior asks, Mailbag, hello all, been thinking a lot about the sequel lately. and what possibilities it may hold, like more enemy variety and more challenging boss fights. And as I watch other people also ponder, I've been seeing a lot of people speculating that there won't be shrines in Breath of the Wild 2. Do you guys think there won't be shrines? And if so, what do you think they will have as an alternative to travel spots and heart pieces? I think they will bring back actual dungeons, and instead of having like 120 shrines for the base game and 4 divine beasts that act as the main dungeons, I think we will have the usual amount of dungeons that we see in Zelda games, like anywhere from like 6 to 10 actual dungeons. And instead of 120 shrines, I think it'll be like 40 or 50 mini dungeons. I don't think they will be in the form of shrines. I would hope they would just be a natural part of the overworld, similar to how you come across some of the little mini dungeon areas in Twilight Princess, where you go into a cave and there's like 2 or 3 room puzzle. There's one that's like got lava at the bottom of it, you need the iron boots. There's one that's an ice block puzzle. Skyward Sword has a couple of weird things. Maybe the ice cavern is a good example, but I would love for them to just be naturally part of the world, or maybe they'll have trials in the sky area. As for starting the game with full hearts and full stamina, I think there's a chance that you might start like the very, very beginning of the game with all of the hearts and stamina that you had from the first game. But when we see the malice start infecting Link's arm, I think that's going to like drain all of that away. And that's going to be the thing that kind of resets Link. Whereas in Majora's Mask, he's reset by being turned into a Skull Kid or knocked out by the Skull Kid or whatever. And all of his items, his Epona, everything's taken. Maybe we'll go more in depth on that on the next episode of the Hylian Gamescast this Thursday. Finally, from 𝗵𝗃 Mailbag. What Zelda game has the most bugs? Either game-breaking bugs such as the GameCube's Wind Waker's Triforce Quest, or just small glitches. I think it's easily Ocarina of Time, based off of the crooked cartridge glitch, the swordless Link glitch, play as Epona, you can copy over items. There's so many bugs and glitches in that game that some do ruin the game, but most are just new ways to play it. Similar to Breath of the Wild, where people figure out how to manipulate the physics engine to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So Ocarina of Time, just because it was on the N64, a new console, it was a new engine, it was their first 3D Zelda game, they had like 5 different versions of the game. So I think that would be the one with the most bugs or glitches. And Breath of the Wild would be a close second, if not having more, just because of the scope of Breath of the Wild so much larger, which gives even more room to have bugs or glitches in certain areas. I mean, all you have to do is go and check out how people speedrun these games and it gets crazy. Alright, that's it. Everyone, I ask you if you would like to help out the channel and like for videos to be posted more often and the Hylian Gamescast to be problem-free, help donate on Patreon and help us out. Hope you liked this video. I know it was kind of weird, Stranger Things, Zelda. Obviously,